And I always like playwrights that have a poetry background. So I'm into Shakespeare, August Wilson, Tennessee Williams, and to see Denzel Washington tackle O'Neill, I think it's really wonderful. And the fact that we're honoring such an iconic figure today, and a friend of mine, and an artist who I've loved working with in the past, it's just very exciting today.
I'm very fortunate. This is a terrific play that I'm in here. Albie got the Pulitzer Prize for it, didn't he? And he was a remarkable writer. But the majority of contemporary dramatists don't find women interesting. We're never, ever, or hardly ever, the driving dramatic engine, where there is a kind of adjunct to the male dramatic engine. So the other great treat about my being here doing this play is that not only it's a marvelous play, but I get to work with actresses, because usually there's only one woman's part. If you've got it, that's it. And here I am on the stage every night with Laurie Metcalf and Alison Pell.
Just in honor of the honoree today, August Wilson is one of my favorite playwrights. Fences is one of the first shows that I got paid to do, and I am just so thrilled. Denzel Washington is one of my heroes, so I'm just amazed and thrilled to be here.
I just told someone else that August Wilson is one of my favorite playwrights, and I'm from Pittsburgh, so he's from Pittsburgh too. So I grew up. He was my bread and butter,
Yeah.
you know, as my parents were taking me to everything that premiered there.
Hi, I'm Sharon Seig.
Itai Benson.
Rachel Prather.
Tiny little independent foreign film that no one's ever heard of. So I thought, how's this gonna work? And then with the magic of this creative team, it did.
Yeah. And then off Broadway, when we did at the Atlantic, I think we were one of the bigger shows that the Atlantic had ever worked on with cast size. So we only had one entrance from the back, and we didn't have any wings. So we had never actually watched the show, and we didn't really know. You know, when you do a new piece, it's changing all the time. So we were like, is it good? Is it not good? Does it work? Does it not work? We weren't quite sure.
We're just thrilled that people are coming to see it at all, considering we're a very small show in this sea of Broadway.
I felt like it was pretty special, and I felt like people were warming up to it in a way. I don't know if we expected it, but once it started to happen, it was kind of like a bulldozer, just a slow, steady takeover of people's hearts and minds. It was really interesting to observe. Transport Group is doing a revival of Summer and Smoke, which is one of the most interesting plays I've ever seen or read, and I just love it. So I'm kind of into Williams right now, and it's the first time in a while I've been revisiting Williams. And I'm also really into Ibsen right now because of his commitment to structure and putting actors into one space and making them duke it out in one space.
My very first job in New York City, when I moved here as a 22-year-old, was I was an intern at New Dramatists. So I made photocopies and answered the phone in the office in the summer and fall of '99, living in a fifth-floor walk-up in Hell's Kitchen. So to be back here in a different capacity is very, very exciting.
I've got maybe 3-4 favorites, you know. Well, the Stephen Adly Girgis, August Wilson, of course, and now Lucas Knopp, and well, my goodness, Lorraine Hansberry. I didn't work with her; I worked on her plays, and you know, I actually. Oh, Arthur Fugger, I love him as a writer. He's a great writer.
The first person that comes to my mind is Kenneth Lonergan, just because I'm a huge fan of his work on stage, on Broadway, but I'm also a big fan of his work on film, and I think he's really figured out how to master the two very different voices, and I think that's a very admirable skill. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Angels in America is quite an extraordinary show because it's so ambitious. It's epic in its nature, includes the supernatural. There are moments when you see angels, there's moments when our main character goes to heaven, there's moments when he floats back down into his bed. Those are just a few of the difficulties of possibly putting on this play.
Honoring the Denzel Washington. It's the highest honor. I'm currently doing a show that's about honoring a life and honoring a career, and that when you're working in the arts and when you're working in the arts and you're loving the arts, it's one thing to know the movies, it's one thing to know the characters that we want to celebrate, but then to be able to dive into the person.
I think that my mother and my grandmother definitely are my muses. They're the people who certainly encouraged me when I was a young writer, full of self-doubt. They're the story, they gave me the stories that I really want to tell. You know, my grandmother was a great raconteur. My mother was a very social person and invited a lot of women to sit around our dinner table, and that's where I learned to write, I think.
Brian Friel was up there for a really long time. I always loved Lillian Hellman, but I can't seem to get a really great production of that I can remember. Nothing wrong with Shakespeare. John Patrick Shanley's been awfully good to me.
I feel incredibly lucky, and it's incredibly immersive and very different from, I think, just about every show that's currently running on Broadway. So I feel privileged. It feels fantastic, and I think every one of us in the company feels incredibly lucky and blessed to be a part of it. Yeah, I need to see more Shakespeare for sure, and I think I have friends who are going to kick me in the butt now.
Very physical show. I get to play some bass guitar, and I get to be husband to both LaChanze and Ariana DeBose. I'm a lucky guy. Oh yeah, Annie Baker. I saw John at the Signature, and it was the best play I've ever seen. I've been in love with her ever since.
Sir, there could be more, but it seems like some strides are being made for women who are actually post-menopausal to get to be on stage again. I'm finding my little hazard, though, is that I'm being cast for parts that are 15 and 20 years older than I am.
With the Prom musical, we're coming to Broadway next year. Not next year, at the end of this year, November. It's very exciting.
It's very exciting. So can you give me a little scoop on the part that you're going to play?
Yes, I play Emma. She's a 17-year-old girl who is a lesbian, and she wants to take her girlfriend to the prom, but the school board says no and cancels the prom. And then these 4 veteran Broadway performers decide they want to come and save the day, and shenanigans ensue, and it's hysterical and heartfelt.